here's what I know. Someone's going to have to start to fight for Nebraska, all right? So I'm here to fight for Nebraska. And finally, the team grows up. It's what people always ask me about year 3. Finally, the team grows up, and they're like, well, I got to go make the play.
It's time to join the Husker Huddle with Nick Handley and Grant Hansen.
Hey, welcome in on another edition of the Husker Huddle podcast alongside Grant Hansen. I'm Nick Handley. It's a bye week, folks. Yeah, we're just stuff that happens before we start recording. It is. It's not the bye week blues. A win. Last time we talked
way different than last time.
We had a bye week, and we had a bye week coming off of a Michigan loss. You had to sit around and wait for Michigan State. Now you get a chance to recollect yourself and get ready for a true road test. And I say true road test because it was a road win against UCLA, but that was...
but with 25,000 Husker fans.
Right, and a 44,000, not capacity, but 44,000 in attendance for that game. 50%. Over half were Nebraska fans. And for TJ Lateef, his first start on the road was also right in his hometown backyard.
And the teeth of what's coming on the other side of the bye week.
Yes.
While they are perhaps blunter than they maybe would have been if James Franklin was still the head coach and the team was still winning.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely sharper than UCLA.
Team that had their hearts ripped out against Indiana, too. They have to play Michigan State this weekend. Nebraska will sit back and watch all of it unfold as they get ready for Penn State out in Happy Valley in 2 weeks. So what we have for you today, it's a good chance to kind of take a look at this, now we can say 7-3 Nebraska football team. Their best 10-game start that they've had now, going all the way back to the 8-2 start they had in 2016. So it has been a while since Nebraska has seen this type of success early on, and they get a chance to, I think this bye week, Grant, serves more as the getting healthy. Everyone's banged up. You're getting into those final 2 games. So if you can get a bye week during this stretch and finish your last 2 regular season games with a little bit of that rest, hey, more power to you. So we're going to get into all of that. Husker Huddle, this is episode number 15. Yes,
hello.
15. Holy cow. And, of course, we appreciate you being with us throughout this entire season. Coming up on the show, we're going to be talking to, for the first time in Husker Huddle history, and yes, we've only been around for a year, so it's okay, but former Blackshirts and one of the very proud members of Big Red Wrap-Up, and on that esteemed panel with Michael Severe and David
Back-to-back Big Red Wrap-Up.
That's right. We're going to have Jay Moore, former Blackshirt. Oh, and I'll try to keep the golf conversation to a minimum, but he's a stick. The dude can swing it on the golf course. He's very, very good, but he was also pretty darn good playing the sport of football. We'll get his thoughts on this defense because some numbers going over these first 10 games, Grant, interesting when it comes to the Nebraska defense versus the Nebraska offense that we will get into. Also, we're going to go ahead and play a little interview that you had talking with a guy that, speaking of defense, was outstanding in that game against UCLA,
100%.
Keona Davis. We'll have mailbag questions, and, of course, we got some score predictions that we're going to throw your way that don't involve Nebraska because, quite frankly, they're not playing this week.
Don't even have to be frank.
No.
So if you want to give us a little help here on the show, we appreciate it if you could like this video and perhaps drop a comment on your thoughts on anything that's going on in the world of Nebraska athletics right now. If you want to reach out to us and be a part of the show as well, you can do it by emailing us, huskerhuddle@myboomerradio.com, huskerhuddle@myboomerradio.com. And then another way to help would be if you could perhaps give us a review on Spotify. Give us a 5-star review there. It helps the show, helps us with the ranking and all those fun things as we try to build this thing up. So we really, really appreciate it if you could do any of those 3 wonderful things.
Well, these things help us get great things like new microphones. If any of you have noticed, we've got new microphones and they look really good. Hopefully they sound good too. It is going to be sort of a different version of our Prime Cuts this week because the only member of the Nebraska football program to speak this week was the head man, Matt Rule. He spoke on Monday and now they're off doing the recruiting thing. So our Prime Cuts always brought to you by Omaha Steaks, your go-to for game day, from sizzling steaks to all of your tailgate favorites. They've got you covered. Omaha Steaks, a proud partner of Nebraska Athletics. Here's this week's Omaha Steaks Prime Cuts.
You know, I personally believe Emmett Johnson should be in New York for he should be a Heisman candidate. I think he should be a Doak Walker finalist, if not winner. And I think what he's doing is, fantastic. I hope people appreciate seeing him. He's a first-team All-American. And I don't know who's the last person that was first-team All-American. It was since 2011, Levante David. It was a really good question that Sam asked me last year, like, hey, what kind of guys are you looking for? at the end of that game, they started interviewing me, and I said, TJ, get over here. They don't want to interview me. TJ, they want to interview you. And TJ immediately starts to talk about Dylan. And he immediately starts to talk about the playing for his brothers on the team. And then Emmett gets in, and Emmett talks about Dylan. Then he talks about TJ. Then he talks about the O-line. Then he talks about all the other guys. And so in today's day and age, to have a team that talks about each other and not just themselves is really, really, really hard to do. And so I'm very proud of the guys. That's not me. That's the team. And I hope our players in this bye week take a moment to see how far they've come personally and where they're headed. I think the way we run the football, it's kind of we're running like downhill, running duo, running inside zone, a little outside zone sometimes for the RPOs, but a little pin and pull. But it's not. He's not taking huge hits. He's kind of fighting for yards, and his superpower is that he makes people miss. So he doesn't take a lot of direct shots, and so. There's never a time where he's been limited in practice. But you have a lot of guys that are underclassmen that are playing really good football. Judy had a really good game. But you look out there, Cade Petchock's a machine out there. He defends the run. The backers, B9 played a great game. I know Andrew Marshall's playing really good football. Guthrie just continues to show up and show up and show up. Justin Rhett got in the game, played well. Jameer Khan. So there's a lot of young guys, and so what I want them to see is hey, just continue to stay with this thing, because these next 2 weeks is not like all right, we have 2 weeks left. We have a month of football to get better, and so what can Keona be by the bowl game? Say we're playing on December 31st or January 1st. Who knows what the bowl games are, but what can he get to by then? And I think that's true for a lot of these guys. You see them really ascending. We can now go get anybody we want. At the same time, we also have the ability to keep our guys now, right? Guys don't have to be embarrassed about, hey, coach, I think I do, these people are offering me this. So we can offer I think we can now be the best of the best. So to answer your question, I want to put the best players in the country in this room, and not having to worry about, hey, can I afford to do it now? Some people might still have more than us, but we got a lot. So
Omaha Steaks is your go-to for game day, from sizzling steaks to all of your tailgate favorites. They've got you covered. Omaha Steaks, a proud partner of Nebraska Athletics, bringing you the prime cuts every week. And the talking point this week, coming off of that win against UCLA, and you heard Matt Rule talk about it as well, and you saw it at the basketball game earlier this week against Maryland Eastern Shore. There is a pretty strong campaign now going for Emmett
aggressive.
Johnson as a Heisman Trophy winner, as a Maxwell Award winner semifinalist, which was announced on Tuesday. He's getting the accolades. He's getting the attention and the notice nationally of what he's been able to do. You and I talked a little bit about this on Husker Hindsight on Sunday following Nebraska's win over UCLA. We all thought he had a chance to be better than he had been, just knowing that he'd be probably used more of a consistent role. There was a lot made
we
of
saw
of
glimpses, UCLA, Wisconsin, Iowa, of what his role would be in the upcoming year.
But never having that consistency of even a 15-plus carry guy, let alone a 20-plus carry guy. A lot was made about the physical makeup, the work he put in the weight room in the offseason. But we all asked the question, okay, what is that going to mean? What's the ceiling of Emmett Johnson? And I honestly don't know. Other than maybe the coaching staff, I don't know if any of us could have predicted what we're seeing right now with Emmett.
No, and they put a lot of weight on him, too, these last 3 games. All over 25-plus carries, at least 1 reception in all those games as well. He maybe hasn't been as involved in the passing game until this week that he had been. And still not in terms of, like, frequency of touches. Like, he obviously was highly, highly impactful in the receiving game with the screen touchdown and then the wheel route touchdown against UCLA. But it's not like they're throwing it to him 6 or 7 times a game. So heavily involved in the run, and he's not showing any real signs of slowing down. I'm sure this bye week will help him.
Yeah.
But, I think Nebraska fans, especially with guys like Anthony Grant, had sort of a sour taste in their mouths the last time they had a true bell cow back who got that many carries, and he just ran out of gas.
Yeah.
And Emmett's certainly different than that. In the years between there, Nebraska never really committed fully to a running back like they have with Emmett Johnson. It's a good thing, and it might be perhaps I don't know if it's too little too late for him to get to New York. He probably has to really, really go off against Penn State and Iowa, firmly on the table for him,
Two good
especially with the
defenses,
quarterback
too.
that he has.
Two very good defenses.
He's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to get plenty of opportunities to do it. And if he does that again, like Nick was saying, against two really, really good defenses, then I think there's maybe a shot. It's just become such a quarterback award at this point. I don't even know if he's able to get to a point where he gets invited.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's really not a whole lot of quarterbacks other than maybe Ty Simpson from Alabama that have truly, truly been special this year.
It was supposed to be Drew Aller.
And even Simpson had plenty of struggles in the early going, and Alabama hasn't been perfect either. So, while I feel tough, I guess, or I'm not super optimistic that he would get an invite to the Heisman ceremony, it's a rough year for quarterbacks in terms of there is no Cam Newton or Johnny Manziel level player this year.
I don't know if you went by this school of thought. I know it is always a popular one when talking about Heisman Trophy candidates, and that was anybody who either played in the Pac-12, the old traditional Pac-12, or played in the group of five that you're playing on the West Coast time zone, and you're playing most of your games late at night. They always said, boy, that was a deterrent because not everybody wanted to stay up and watch those games. Heisman voters didn't want to stay up and watch those games.
Well,
it's interesting. We're talking about one of Emmett Johnson's most complete games as both
happening
a
out
running back.
west.
Yeah, happening out west at an 8 o'clock Central time kickoff, where I don't know how many people saw that. You would hope, because it was somewhat of an all-helmet game, the UCLA-Nebraska.
But the other thing, too, though, is that
I don't know how many people had a chance to see it.
We've seen this year, and we continue to see in the AP voting. Look, AP voters aren't necessarily Heisman voters, but there's some serious issues with human error anyway at play here. So, I mean, I think you have the fan vote. Nebraska's done a really good job pushing like, hey, fans, vote every day for Emma Johnson for Heisman. That counts for one ballot. And Nebraska's making a real direct push. I really don't remember the last time, because like awards campaigns are a thing generally in organized athletics. That was a big assignment in one of our sports PR classes in college. Was, all right, you're going to spend a week basically designing an award campaign for a player. I don't know if I remember the last time Nebraska has been directly involved at the university level in campaigning for a player to win an award.
Yeah.
I don't think they didn't do it for Amir. I don't think. Not to this level. Now, at the same time, social media even in 2014 was way different than it is now.
I think there was a push for Amir, but he would be the last one. I think there was hope that Adrian would be that guy. Remember, he had decent Heisman odds in his sophomore year.
Yep.
So there was a little bit of that. But what Emmett Johnson was able to do in that game and what he's shown this year, I think it really did allow a TJ Lateef, a true freshman quarterback, to come in.
Relax, too.
Yeah, and also to have an offensive coordinator who's seen so much football and has seen so many different dynamics of an offense that he could create and tailor something to TJ Lateef, knowing that he
and
had
they were permanently on schedule.
Yeah, they were.
Right?
And that was the other thing about why Emmett Johnson's presence is so important, though, because that allowed Holgorsen to do this.
Maybe 2 plays that I can think of that they were third and really long.
Yeah.
And he converted one. I think the other was the Dane Key drop. Am I crazy?
I know that was
it was on that series. It was on that series. Maybe that was second and 11 to get to third and 11 or something. Either way, the point is they didn't really feel like they were in third and long very much, and they were getting 4 to 5 to 7 to 8 yards or more on first down pretty consistently, running it with Emmett. Now, again, the next two defenses they're going to play will be much, much tougher against the run than UCLA is, a team that's bottom 15 nationally against the run. But at the same time, it's going to give TJ, a young quarterback and an experienced quarterback, it takes a lot of pressure off of him if you're living in 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 5, as opposed to 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 11.
I do want to bring this part of it up because I know I did this a lot on Sunday and really leading up to the taping of this podcast, and that is the presence of EJ in that offense, the experience of Dana Holgorsen to be able to tailor something that was going to be successful for TJ Lateef, play to his strengths and this offense's strengths. Maybe I'm not asking this question. I'm going to ask you, Grant, how much of TJ Lateef's presence also impacted Emmett Johnson's performance in that game against UCLA with that threat of the run, playing a little of the RPO, but zone read game, knowing that he's a legitimate threat to run the football, much more than what Dylan is?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it certainly evens the numbers. It certainly makes it a type of game in which you have to spend time and practice accounting for those things. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a good question. I would wager probably not that much, because if I'm defending Nebraska at this point, if I'm Penn State and Iowa, I'm just going to sell out against the run and make Latif beat you, whether that's with his legs or through the air. So, and that to me, like, UCLA is just not, this is not a good team overall. Not a good team defensively. And so what I'm really interested in is to see how teams with actual coaching staffs, well, I guess Penn State's an interim staff too, now that I think about it, but teams with better coaching staffs, better players,
still a good defensive staff.
Defend TJ Latif and Emmett Johnson together. I'm really, really interested to see how that looks in the next couple of weeks.
Well, and what's always interesting with these bye weeks too is not only are you going to have Penn State game installed, but there's going to be a little bit of Iowa game planning as well to get a little bit ahead, because you have that short week.
And it's going to go so quick for us too. You think about it, there's 20 days left in the season and two games in those 20 days.
We're counting down to the start of the season, and I say this every year. At some point in the back half of the schedule, you stop and look and say, oh my gosh, we only have however many weeks. It goes by so fast. I want to get to something here real quickly before we move over to our guest, Jay Moore. And we'll talk to Jay Moore a little bit about this too. There's a lot of conversation coming off of this game. Sustained long drives, Nebraska making some plays defensively, but you saw UCLA, especially at the end, where that I don't want to call Nico Iamava a one-dimensional guy. He wants to be in the pocket. He wants to throw it. But where we saw him start to hurt Nebraska was with the run. We've heard it a lot. It's kind of a tired, I think, narrative on Nebraska's defense, because I think it's a narrative on many defenses is they struggle with the running quarterback. I was doing some numbers over the last 3 years and looking at, I'll get the offense a little bit later on, but defensively, we know how good Tony White was in those first 2 years, especially in stopping the run. But this defense on the whole under John Butler is pretty darn good. And I'm just going to give you some of the numbers. So if we look at rushing yards allowed in 2023, 93 allowed on average, which was fifth best in the nation. In 2024, 101 allowed, sixth best in the nation. This is where it's a bit jarring. This year, 161 yards allowed, 107th best in the nation. But
not great.
No, we get the passing yards. 23, 211 per game, 26th in the nation. 217 and 24, 72nd in the nation. This year, 134, fifth best in the nation. TFLs, 76, 81 between 2023, 2024. This year, 54 with 2 games to go, mind you, as well. Mm-hmm. But you look at where Nebraska is defensively on the whole and just total defense and total yards allowed, 13th this year, last year 18th, 2023 11th. So this is, other than that 2023 team that was 5-7, in the 3-year stretch, this is, at least as of now, after 10 games, the most effective defense on the whole that we've seen from John Butler.
Well, and, it goes back to, I think, no matter what Nebraska looks like on offense, for probably the entirety of Matt Rhule's tenure, it's going to be a defensive-first football team.
Yep.
Defense and running the ball. Oh, well, that looks like that's what usually wins the Big Ten. I mean, there's two teams now that break that mold, and that's Indiana and Ohio State, and they're the best 2 teams in the league. But even to some extent, as good as Oregon is through the air generally, how did they win against Iowa? Well, they got a safety, and they forced a key turnover. They got a good special teams, and they won with defense and running the ball effectively.
Dan Lanning, a defensive guy, much like Matt Rhule's a defensive guy.
So that's going to be a part of Nebraska's DNA, I think, no matter what. And there is, Jay's perspective on this is going to be really, really worth listening to, I think, obviously, for a number of reasons. But I think, and we've talked about this for probably about a month now, it's hard to fully identify what this defense's identity is and how good it is.
Yeah.
Because there are things that they do that you just hate. And then you look up at the board at the end of the game, and it's like, well, they only allowed this many points or this many passing yards. And yeah, they gave up these scrambles, but they made these plays when it counted. And so, and so hopefully he can solve that puzzle for us.
Making plays to get off the field, and that's what they're going to have to continue to do here. But Nebraska, after the 10-game stretch, 7-3, and into the final bye week, then it's Penn State and Iowa. Before we get to former Blackshirts, Jay Moore, want to tell you about our friends over at Omaha Steaks. Okay, we are getting into the holidays. You're hearing all of those Black Friday commercials, those early Black Friday commercials, everything going on. And look, you could get the same old boring gift. You can get the sweater, the socks, or whatever, but why not get something that the entire family is going to like, or your coworkers, your friends, whoever, and get them one of those great famous boxes from Omaha Steaks that has everything from sirloins to chicken. You can customize your own boxes as well. Get everything from tailgate favorites to traditional favorites.
Why do you get that same old boring gift every year, right? It's easier.
It is.
Well,
It's true.
guess what? This is really, really easy to access and find online. And we've got a code for you that gives you 50% off at omahasteaks.com already. That's already happening, not even tied to our code. And then we give you an extra $35 off on top of that with promo code HUDDLE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details.
Things I love about it, backed by an unconditional 100% money-back guarantee as well. And look, it speaks for itself. We've been telling you, once you take that first bite, you're going to know the difference between Omaha Steaks. And as Grant mentioned, 50% off omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with the promo code HUDDLE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Well, we're talking a little bit about the Blackshirts, what to make of the 2025 version of the Blackshirts, and under first-year defensive coordinator for Nebraska, John Butler, gave you some of those interesting numbers. Really good against the pass. In fact, since Matt Rule has been here, the best they've been in defending the pass, but the worst in stopping the run. As we welcome in Jay Moore, former Blackshirt. You see him every Tuesday on Big Red Wrap-Up. And Jay, I know this is something near and dear to your heart when you watch defensive performances week in and week out, but I want to go all the way back to the beginning of the season when you lose guys like Nash and Ty Robinson. You know you're bringing in, albeit some talented, but younger and maybe a little bit more inexperienced guys. What was your overall expectation for this group, especially when it came to stopping the run?
Yeah, I thought they would struggle. And I don't know if they've. I think at times it's been really, really good, and it's been really, really bad. The Michigan game, obviously the big runs they kind of gave up, that was disappointing. I think keeping a very mobile quarterback in the pocket's difficult, like they had this weekend with Nico. But overall, I think expectation-wise, I did not expect Williams Noweri to play much this year. That's been a pleasant surprise, and he has matured and gotten better. We kind of knew what Keona Davis was able to do, but I think he's evolving. Kind of started off good, kind of had a little bit of a lull. The UCLA game was easily his best game so far, his most consistent performance. Cam Lenhart, we know what he's able to do, but again, had a really good freshman year, kind of was banged up, kind of had some issues again this year, but he's played consistently. Elijah Judy, again, saw him last year. He's done okay. He's played probably more consistently than Riley Van Poppel has been. He's been very up and down, in my opinion, all year. I think he has all the tools, but he's still figuring out. So you have a lot of guys that, other than Judy, haven't played a ton of football yet. And it shows at times. But with that being said, I didn't expect these guys to step in there and recreate what Ty and Nash were able to do. I mean, that's a big task. But I look, just what this defense has been in general and where they've kind of had to do is, I'm not surprised how well they have defended the pass because of the guys in the secondary, and even with injuries to Hartzog on that back end, they've played their tails off. And defensively, I think they know where their strengths are, and they know where they have to kind of tailor make their defense and their game plans. Is, hey, we're going to kind of give you some runs every now and then. We're going to let you do some checkdowns, but we're going to rally, and we're going to keep kind of everything in front of us. and we're not going to allow the big plays. They've done a pretty darn good job of that. I mean, pass plays wise, I know they haven't given up a ton of explosive passes. Obviously, the runs, that's been another different story. But overall, what I kind of expected from this defense, just because of the really the front seven. I know Jaden Wright's he's played well this year and has played a ton of football, but we just didn't know much about Watson Trent, and we've seen Shavers. He makes a bunch of splash plays at times, but is again inconsistent. Just doesn't play with great vision. That's a key aspect with good defensive players is playing with good eye discipline. I think that escapes them at times, but overall, with the inconsistencies, with the lack of experience really from the front seven, I'm okay with where things are at, and I was very surprised to learn that this defense has not given up more than 400 yards of total offense in a game yet this year. But they're going to face two of their toughest running opponents, I think, in the next 2 weeks, obviously with Penn State and Iowa. But overall, that's about kind of where I expected this defense to be through 10 games. Is sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not great, but they keep you in the game. They keep you hanging around. They make plays at necessary times. So I guess that's a very long-winded answer to your question, Nick. Is just I kind of that's about what I expected with really just the inexperience that this front seven has had. But next year I think it'll be vastly different though as well.
Jay, we've talked a lot about the youth up front on that defensive line this year and the experience, conversely, in the secondary. But you got two young players there that have been filling two really key roles in Rex Guthrie and Donnie Jones. What are your expectations for them going forward in the future of this Nebraska secondary, given what they've shown throughout this season?
Yeah, I think I love young players being thrown into roles early. It means recruiting has done well, development has done well, but I also think there's a lot of guys behind them that are competing at those positions. Caleb Benning is going to be a guy that's going to get his throw his hat in the ring in coming years, especially next year. There's guys on behind them, but I think this is where this defense will switch. I expect them to be much better against the run next year, but maybe struggle a little more against the pass because you lose Singleton. You'll have to help me out with I believe Sierra Wright's a senior, right?
Yeah, correct.
Andrew Marshall, does he have one more year left, or he's a senior as well? He's got a year left, so that helps. Buford, it will be done. So I don't expect what Hartzog's current situation is going to be. I don't expect him to be back next year. But yeah, I like anytime you get young guys that have stepped in here and haven't been here a lot. That means that attention to detail is being taught very well. They're grasping concepts. It's not too overwhelming for them. Coming from high school to college, and the concepts of route trees and combinations and how you're defending it, and really it's just the communication levels that you have to be at. You have to know your stuff, and they've done it the right way. So I love that. I think you get with the new secondary guy coming over from, I believe, UCF. He's done a really, really good job of implementing himself into John Butler's system and making sure everyone is on the same page. But yeah, in this day and age of college football, man, we're going to be learning new guys every year and forgetting where they're at, and are they a junior or senior? I don't know if there's COVID years still involved with players, but yeah, what Nebraska secondary is able to do with older guys getting implemented with young guys has been really impressive so far this year.
Former Blackshirt Jay Moore is our guest here on the Husker Huddle. I want to throw these numbers at you because you can make better sense out of this than I can. So I told you Nebraska's total defense right now through 10 games, they are 13th best in the country, allowing 296 total on average. The 2023 first year under Matt Rule, this was a team that had 76 TFLs and 32 sacks as a team. Last year, they were 81 TFLs for 30 sacks, so a little bit more TFLs, but a few less sacks. This year, they're not on pace to hit either one of those numbers. 54 TFLs, 18 sacks on the year, yet collectively it's still working. So, I mean, when you look at those numbers or hear those numbers, do sometimes we make too much out of being disruptive in the backfield? Obviously, it's something you want to do, but what these numbers show me, Jay, and I'd love for you to give me your perspective, is it's not the end-all, be-all to be disruptive in the backfield if you're shutting down things, especially in the secondary.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a defensive lineman through and through, and sacks is how you get paid and you make money, you get drafted. My junior year at Nebraska, we led the nation in sacks. We were 7-5. So take for that what it's worth. I also think it's kind of still maybe a Bo Pelini, phrase. It's not about yards, it's about points. And that matters a whole lot. But it just kind of shows you just what we were talking about earlier is that where this defense is. And I think this is the cat and mouse in these chess pieces that John Butler's had to deal with when you have a lot of first-year guys playing a ton. I mean, I know Keona played a little bit last year, but really with Noweri, Keona Davis, Watson Trent, Shavers, we've seen them more consistently. You had Dawson Merritt getting thrown into this. There's a lot of fresh faces up there that haven't played a ton of football. So you're kind of some of these scenarios, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And he's taken a brunt of it. And I tried to be calculated about, I thought earlier in the year when they were getting gashed against Michigan and Cincinnati got him a few times, is I thought he was too exotic. I thought some of their stunts and how they're executing them, I'm okay stunting, but I didn't like how they were doing it. I think he's done a better job of getting away from that, which has helped. But it's also like where do you want to, roll the dice at? Do you want to take your risk and do some exotic things to try to create havoc plays, create those tackles for losses, create those sacks, and maybe give up some big plays? And I think he's done a really, really good job of kind of picking and choosing. To be honest, he's kind of changed his philosophy more, where we saw more cross, defensive tackles kind of looping around, defensive ends coming in, but they were doing it in a fashion to where I'm used to when you do that, you still engage with the linemen to kind of see what kind of run read, or is a heavy pass read or a heavy run read. And if it's a heavy run read, you really kind of don't do anything. And then you kind of, if it's a pass, you kind of do it late, or if it's a run, it's just handled differently. Where at times where they were getting gashed, they were kind of doing stuff right away before they even knew if it was run or pass, or what kind of heavy zone read this way or heavy reach block this way, where you just got guys put out of position. And I don't care how good a linebackers or secondary you may have. It's just that the holes are too big. So I think what I've noticed is they've done more just stunting, from C to B gaps, B to A gaps, crossing face, maybe bringing some edge guys. But also what they've done is they brought more zone pressures. I saw this in a lot, you've had against UCLA. I saw it against Northwestern, Michigan State, where you get some defensive linemen that are actually dropping into pass coverage. And then they're bringing pressures from other scenarios. That's easy to clean up as well. So I think he's kind of learned and learned his lesson. But it's evolving. But it adds up to me that why this statistical information to have. I think you want to be. It's a sexy thing to talk about. How many sacks you have, how many TFLs you have as a team. But it just shows you with, again, the inexperience of your front seven that he's tried, but I think he's had to back off a little bit and simplify things because it caused too many issues from a run stoppage standpoint. And you just know what? Where's your strength of your team at? It's a secondary. So let's keep everything in front. Let's not allow too many big plays. Let's get them into third and long, and where we know, or third and predictable. Then we can kind of do some more exotic things. But Yeah, that stats. You said 13th in the nation in overall defense right now.
Yeah, 13th in total defense as
Yeah,
far as yards allowed.
right, and they're not even touching where they're at in sacks. I mean, give me that from a team aspect. You got to give me that all day, right?
Right.
I know. Again, we want to sit here and pick apart things that they don't do well, but I think you got to look at it and just understand what they do really well. And this defense is darn good situationally. They're getting off the field on third downs more successfully, holding teams to fewer points in the red zone. So again, they're creating turnovers at a better rate. So uh, next year will be better, right? It'll be much improved from the havoc. But again, how good's the secondary when you lose a bunch of guys that have played a ton of football? So it's just that constant back and forth battle that every team's going to have through transfer portals, through graduation, injuries, you name it. That they're going to kind of figure out where's that next pawn getting moved to make this defense, at its best every game and situationally as well.
Jay Moore with us here on the Husker Huddle. And Jay, what do you hope to see and learn from Nebraska over these last two games of the season, I guess, apart from winning those last two games?
You know, just I love where this energy of this team is, even with I thought the effort. I don't ever question effort. I mean, only time I just something was off that Minnesota game. Something was drastically off. I think from top to bottom. So whether it's obviously effort, execution, something just didn't add up there. But since that game on that Friday night, that the focus, that the intensity is there. I just want to see that continue. I thought the USC game. I think if Dylan, I know people are saying that's easy to say. If Dylan doesn't get hurt, they win that football game. I'm like, I do. I just think they do. It's TJ Latif's a really good quarterback. We saw what he's able to do just a few days ago. Just him throwing in that situation is just doesn't suit well for anybody. But again, it's you're getting to the end of the season, and Nebraska looks like they're getting better ever since that Minnesota game. I don't know what team that was against Minnesota, but um, they look different. So continue with that focus, that attention to detail, that hunger that they have. You get some teams get to this point of the year and they're just limping through. They're trying to get through practices, start feeling sorry for yourselves, whatever it may be. And I don't get that from this team. So that's what I want to continue to see. I mean, Emmett Johnson looks like he's running better. I love this where things are going with TJ. Special teams wise is fantastic. Defense again, make your stops, limit explosive plays, hold teams to field goals, and they're going to be excellent situations the rest of the year. I don't know if they'll be favored in every game going forward, but I know damn well they're going to have a chance to win every single one of these games and hopefully get yourself into a Florida bowl game, which we haven't seen. We haven't been down there in a while, and it's nice just to be at this point of the year knowing that they got 7 wins, and it's fun to talk about the bowl games. But again, just this continuous effort, focus the detail and the energy. The energy has been really, really good the last 2 weeks, and get a chance to rest and recover through this bye week and get back at it. And Coach Rule's gonna have these boys ready. He knows where he's going, and he's know everything about them. So he's gonna have these guys ready. He wants to go up there and win this game, knowing who's on the other side of that sideline. So it's going to be kind of fun to see that all those dynamics take place.
I promise, Jay, next time when we have a little bit more time too, we'll get your thoughts on how we figure out this losing streak with the U.S. Ryder Cup too. Disappointing.
Well, yeah, that that setup was a little interesting. I don't think they ever expected that golf course to be that soft with all that rain they got, but U.S. Ryder Cups and past have kept the rough really low, but that was, I mean, those guys were flagging 5 woods out of the rough and damn near giving them back up. That was, but I mean, they had the same conditions, both teams as Europe putted their tails off.
Oh yeah, they were.
I mean, they made everything.
Everything they did in day one and day two, it was almost, I mean, Sunday was fun to see the U.S. show a pulse and make it interesting.
Yeah.
That thing was over. I could talk to you Ryder Cup all day long golf as well, but I know hopefully with the warm weather you'll be experiencing some before the season's over. The season's never over for you though, right? You just go where it's warmer, don't you?
Yeah, I try to. Haven't. I mean, I'll play if there's not too much snow on the ground. I will. I mean, I won't. Most courses are closed, but I'll. I mean, I'm always working on my craft.
Yeah.
There you go.
And working at it. I'm a junkie through and through, so I'm pretty fortunate. I got like 3 simulators within 100 yards of my office.
Oh, okay. Thought you were going to say.
So it's where I spend a good amount of my lunch breaks is go grab some to go and
There you go.
hit balls for an hour.
That's the life right there. Jay,
Yeah.
former Blackshirt, and of course you can catch him on Tuesdays on Big Red Wrap Up with Michael Severe, David Benning, the entire gang. Also, always awesome to talk to you, Jay. Always appreciate it. Hey, very happy holidays to you and your family as well, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon.
Yeah, you bet. Holler anytime you need me. It's always good to catch up with you guys. And happy Thanksgiving, happy Merry Christmas, and go Big Red. 2 more wins here, 3 more wins, right? Finish out this year strong.
That'd be good. All the best. See you, Jay.
Yep. See you, boys.
Great stuff from former Blackshirt Jay Moore, and catch him again every Tuesday on Big Red Wrap Up with Michael and Damon. Always good insight there from Jay Moore. And as I mentioned, if you ever see him on the golf course, take some pointers from him as well because he's pretty darn good at that. I want to get to our Week 15 mailbag questions. We will do so here in just a moment, but want to also tell you about our friends at Cross Train Brewing. Saw something really cool this week, Grant. It's Matt Brown of Extra Points, Nebraska. You can applaud yourself for this one. Nebraska will top the nation in alcohol sales at Memorial Stadium compared to all other college football venues.
Yeah.
168,293 units sold, $2.1 million in revenue. And every time I see somebody posting something on social media, they're holding up a can of the Cornhusker Crusher, the official craft beer
Why not?
of the Huskers. And
That's awesome.
It is an absolute banger. It's at Cross Train where you can get not only that, but as the season, we get into
the
winter,
snowman back.
The inflatable snowman. You nailed it. A little cranberry puree with cinnamon in there. They've got one of my favorite seasonal, vanilla nectar. Little vanilla coffee bean in there with the fairy nectar is awesome. So many great things to try. And they have events going on almost every day, both at the La Vista location and downtown as well.
Yeah, fantastic place to get a drink. I highly encourage you to visit either of those locations, and then a new one coming into the West Omaha area very soon.
Out of the 168,000 units sold at Memorial Stadium, how many do you think were Cornhusker Crushers?
Do you have the number actually?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say probably 168,000.
Oh, that sounds good to me.
No one else drinking anything else. That's fine. That's good. That's the way it should be. All right, it is time for our Week 15 mailbag. And of course, as we do pretty much the last, I don't know, however many weeks we've been doing this, PB from the O was going to kick us off. He's got a couple of questions, as he typically does. Yes, he does. 2 freshman quarterbacks under center for Nebraska, Penn State. What can fans expect from either defense scheme-wise, and how fundamental will it look on offense for both teams?
Oof. Nebraska will come after him.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Forgive me.
Bruckmeyer?
But I don't feel like he's a massive running threat, or what do you think?
No, but I did like he handled the game extremely well against Indiana.
Hey, I agree with that.
I was very impressed with, and you can tell, for just like what I expect TJ Lateef to look like by the time he gets through the season into the bowl game, all of these real reps. Not that the Akron and the Houston Christian reps weren't beneficial for TJ Lateef, but having those real reps, those real high leverage game situation reps that he had against USC and UCLA are going to be huge. I think that's what you're seeing for Bruckmeyer. I think you're seeing that's a guy that's played enough now, and the result hasn't always been good, but he really managed that offense, I think, very well. And he's got 2 very solid running backs, which, as we know, is a quarterback's best friend, especially ones that are inexperienced.
No, I think Nebraska will remain aggressive, should be aggressive in this game, unless he starts really hurting you with his legs, which I don't necessarily foresee. They'll back off at that point, but to me, I think they come after him.
And I think this is what I'll say for both teams. Offensively, they don't have to change much. Now, for Nebraska, we know there's a little bit of that extra element when it does come to being able to run the football with TJ Lateef as opposed to maybe what you could with Dylan Raiola. Just like TJ's probably not going to make some of the throws, at least yet, that Dylan can make. So there's a little trade-off. And I would say the same for Bruckmeyer and Aller as well. Question number 2, Penn State has lost 6 games straight headed into this weekend against Michigan State. How much does a win or loss affect the Nittany Lions before they play Nebraska the following week? This is a good question.
To me, it depends on how it happens.
I agree. And I told you this on Sunday. Watch what happens to Penn State when they go to East Lansing, because Penn State, Michigan State, however, Michigan State is pesky enough that if this team is still hurting from that just emotional gut punch of a loss to Indiana, it'll show against Michigan State, and they'll be able to exploit some things.
Or they were just that close against Indiana, and they've figured it out enough, and they're going to try to find a way to make it to a bowl game.
And if they drill Michigan State, I don't care really what happens in this game. I think sounds kind of crazy. I think this is a larger obstacle for Nebraska than Iowa. And Iowa's having a much better season. Iowa presents a lot of challenges on their own. I just think this is a true road game. This is a team that I think is going to have still a lot of piss and vinegar, especially when they're playing at home.
Sure.
They're still going to have a lot of fans there. That's going to be senior day for them as well. So there's going to be a lot going on there where I think this is going to be a major challenge for Nebraska. Dan chimes in with everything earlier in the season about the Penn State job. Do you think there's any added motivation for this game for Rule or the players?
I don't think so. I think Rule will get asked about it next week. But I mean, I just, it's business, it's part of it. I mean, I don't think Rule can go up there and say, hey, look, I hope I'm getting asked about other jobs next year because it means I've done a good job. I hope I'm getting asked about other jobs this year. That is an evidence that we're doing the right thing here at our place. So to me, I don't think you can go up there, say those things, and then go out there next week against Penn State and bear any ill will against the program in your alma mater. Again, he'll be asked about it because he's going home. He's playing Penn State for the first time with Nebraska, but I'm not particularly concerned that narrative will become a major part of next week's storylines.
Yeah, I think for a lot of coaches, it's kind of the same thing for Matt Rule, that they are going to look at this as they've already made their announcement, so to speak, or for Matt Rule, he has signed an extension. So he's pretty much put that thing to bed. I think there's always, for any coach, I think there's always going to be a little extra emotion. I don't want to say motivation, but extra emotion when you're playing your alma mater. I think that's only natural. That's the human element of coaching. But I don't think that this is where I look at Matt Rule, the professional, where in preparation for this game, he's not a little extra tight or trying to say a couple extra words to motivate this team because it's Penn State or because a lot of people are still trying to link him to that, if that's even the case anymore. I think this is, just from a personal standpoint for Matt Rule, going to mean a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to be okay, all of a sudden everything is just going to be completely discombobulated because it's, there's too much emphasis on
100.
And we do have a basketball question. TJ chimes in, wants to know, says, Rink Mast is and needs to be the best player on the team, but who in your mind is the second best player on the team or needs to be the second best player on the team?
It's a great idea.
It's a great question because I don't think the answer for who is and who needs to be is the same, in my opinion. Because I think right now, I think it is Price Sanford. And I think he gives you a lot of offensive, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a little bit more well-rounded offensively. Gives you a variety of ways to score. And so you have to defend him in a very honest manner. He's one of those guys that if you do try to basically get up in his shorts, so to speak, but you also have to be mindful of where Rink Mast is. He's that guy that I think does demand to have that type of attention. But maybe he needs to be that guy because he has got a much heavier role and bigger impact on this team than I thought he would right out of the gate. And as we're going to see them play some tougher teams, maybe that'll change. But the guy I thought would maybe need to be, I actually thought Connor Essegian needed to be that guy. Complimentary shooter from the outside that when Rink Mast is starting to bring his game a little bit more towards the paint.
They're both kind of the same guy.
Sanford,
a lot of ways.
Sanford and Essegian.
I need to watch more to further formulate my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sanford makes a lot of sense. I think I'm going to go Frager, just because Braden Frager is somebody who fills, I mean, we've talked about the Juwan Gary role.
Yep.
But I think he can provide a lot for this team and in terms of somebody who can actually attack the basket, which we have not necessarily seen a whole lot of that lately. But I'm glad TJ brought up Rink Mass just because I think people forgot how important he was and how valuable that type of big is in Nebraska's offense. Derek Walker walked in that role so that Rink Mass could run.
Yeah.
And Derek Walker, probably that wasn't his best role, but man, did he fill it well at the end. And then Rink is just the extension of that.
Yeah.
A guy who can actually step out and hit threes in addition to all the beautiful passing stuff that he and Derek had in common. And so he is the engine that makes this entire thing move. And I'm really, really looking forward to watching him play throughout the year. This Oklahoma game on Saturday night at the Pentagon is going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, and I want to also preface what I just said there about the between Esiason and Sanford. That doesn't mean that Berkay's role doesn't need to elevate, and it again against lesser competition. It has so far, but also Jamarcus Lawrence too, being back and being that distributor for an offense that can be somewhat positionless. Those are important roles, definitely. Great questions from everyone. And again, if you want to hit us up on the mailbag, do so going to huskerhuddle@myboomerradio.com. Email us huskerhuddle@myboomerradio.com. Well, as we mentioned at the top of the hour and top of the show, that Grant had a chance to catch up with Keona Davis, who had a fantastic game against UCLA. Give it a listen and a watch.
Folks, welcome back. It is Huskers All Access, brought to you by Access Bank, here for a reason. I'm Grant Hansen here with Nebraska defensive lineman Keona Davis. And Keona, this past week at Minnesota, probably your best game as a Husker, 6 tackles. You got your first career half sack. Both of those were career highs. Walk me through your progression as you've started every one of these games this year. How different of a player are you now than when you guys went to Kansas City in August?
More experience. I have more confidence in myself going into Cincinnati, being a starter. I kind of had doubts, a little doubts, so kind of slowed me down in Cincinnati. And then leading up to Minnesota, I had like little problems with doubts, so I had to get that fixed. And then came Minnesota and Maryland. Maryland's when I really started to lock in, started having more confidence in myself. Started playing faster, stopped thinking so much, and we get to Minnesota. I just decided just to go and stop thinking so much. So I have more confidence in myself than I had in week 1.
How do you get over those mental hurdles?
You gotta talk to people. At first I thought I could get it through by myself, but I couldn't because it just kept coming back, holding me back. So I talked to Dr. Stout. And he helped me out. He helped me change my perspective of things, helped me start playing just for me because I was thinking about way too many factors outside of the game. And I just come back to, like, I'm a football player. I do this because I love it. So, yeah, you got to talk to people.
When you look at this upcoming opponent in Northwestern this week, they run the ball about 40 times a game, so stopping the run will be key again. What can you do? What can your defensive line do better against Northwestern this Saturday than you guys have done in some of your earlier games as you improve?
You got to be more physical. That's it. It's got to be more physical. Because Minnesota, we didn't play to our standard, so as you see, that's the result. So we're going to come out, be more physical, attack, get off the ball, and just be relentless and stop getting down on ourselves when things don't go our way. That was a big thing. We wasn't scoring, so they kept running and running, and we just kept getting down on ourselves. We just got to say, okay, bad play. What's next? Just keep attacking.
When you see a guy like Rocco Spindler get hurt on Friday, come back, he has surgery, and then practices today, what does that do for you mentally when you see a guy pushing through some of those sorts of things?
Gives me confidence, because if he can do it while he's hurt with a finger, then I can do this too. And he a dog. Rocco a real dog, because he was out there to play in practice, giving it his all. Big old cast on his hand. He ain't let it affect him, so seeing that just helps me keep going. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about you a little bit, Keona. Who do you like listening to when you're working out? Like, what's your go-to artist or song that you want to hear when you're maxing out?
Ooh, I listen to like whatever I'm in the mood in. Sometimes I'll be in the mood for J. Cole, or Drake, or I'll just listen to like who it was. It was one band called Girlfriends I was listening to. They were pretty good. And then you got, I forgot their name. But yeah, it would be like sometimes I feel like rock, sometimes I feel like hip hop, sometimes I feel like R&B. Just whatever I feel like.
PS5 or Xbox?
Like PS5.
Why?
That's what I grew up on. I mean, I tried Xbox, but I don't like how the controller is set up. You got one joystick up here, and you got another one right here. I like PS5 because just even.
What's your go-to game? What do you play most?
I like combat games. Like you got Call of Duty, and you got UFC, and I want to get Mortal Kombat too. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Keona. I appreciate it. Congrats on your success, and as you've developed, it's been fun to watch that throughout the year. This has been Huskers All Access, brought to you by Access Bank, here for a reason.
Good stuff there with you and Keona Davis. And there is...
it's exciting. I'm excited to watch his career develop here at Nebraska.
Well, and what Jay said, too, for a guy that you're seeing that production really on the uptick at the end of this year, too. And those are guys that even with the inability for this defensive line to stop the run as a whole this season, there have been moments where they've been a lot more stingy against the run, and Keona Davis has been one of really the stalwarts that's really aided in that.
And I don't know how many Nebraska fans knew a whole lot about Keona before the year. I think a lot of the defensive line questions or thoughts of the fan base were centered around Riley Van Poppel. And Keona, I think, is going to be the name on the tips of pretty much everybody's tongue heading into next year when we're talking about defensive line. So him and Williams Nwaneri, I mean, two guys that are both underclassmen and both will be key pieces up front for Nebraska. Hopefully, with those resources, we didn't necessarily talk about that in that opening segment either. We spent a lot of time talking about Emmett, but Matt Rule making comments that basically, essentially, Nebraska has the money to go get anybody at once at this point in time. You just think that would apply to retention as well. Yeah. So hopefully those two guys are key pieces for Nebraska going forward at premium positions.
Yeah, it's a good point about the retention, and I think he fits the bill of, we talked about this a lot off the air about where the emphasis would be in talent upgrade, but also trying to make sure that you're taking care of the guys that you can win with. And you and I both mentioned the trenches, both offensive line, defensive line, guys that are going to be a big part.
And Nebraska's
like Justin Evans on the offensive
Nebraska's been a top
side
5 finisher at tackle positions. I think the last 2 years and maybe all 3 years of Matt Rule. I don't really know if you can count the first one since that was a transitionary period and a whirlwind period of about 4 weeks to try to assemble a roster. But the last 2 cycles they've been big players for offensive tackles and they've had to settle both times. Yeah. So we'll see this year, this next offseason cycle, if they have the money to go get and secure a top-tier offensive tackle in the portal.
Want to get to our predictions here, and we don't obviously have a Nebraska game, so we can take a look at 2 games a little bit more in depth here. The big one out of the SEC, Texas, Georgia, where this one I think is going to be a fascinating game for the simple fact that since that somewhat inexplicable loss that Texas had to Florida, where I think we're all ready to write them off, and they haven't had – let's not say their game control.
You're carrying some water
here. What I'm going to say is their game control and get like the Kentucky game, for instance. There's been some other ones where oof, they just were able to win some football games. You look at the college football playoff rankings, they are right there in the top 10.
So stupid.
As 2-loss team.
You really shouldn't be.
Well, because I'm going to bring up another team too that I at first what the heck, but then I think I get it. But Texas taking on Georgia. Georgia's a prime team, number 5 in the college football playoff rankings right now. They've just got the 1 loss, and it's a team that is seemingly destined to the college football playoff. Texas, if you go off the current rankings right now, is not out of this. And with a win against Georgia,
obviously that would
very much in this.
That would change my outlook on them as well if they were able to do that. I don't think they will be able to. Spoiler, but if they were,
it's a big. Well, if you would have told me this would be the number at the beginning of the season, Georgia, Texas 6.5 in favor of the home team, Georgia, I would have thought, wow, that's a lot. To me, I actually surprised not a little bit more.
I agree.
I thought Georgia, at the very least, would be an 8-point favorite in this game, if not maybe nearing double digits. But this is the one thing I'll say about Texas. And Arch Manning, he's been inconsistent. He's been banged up every now and then. That this offense has never taken off the way that I think everyone figured it would from the start of the season to now where we are. But you got to give this to this Texas roster. It's a talented roster. They've got
no doubt
players on this roster. And what Sark has done in recruiting, but also I think establishing a culture there, there's something to be said about them at least finding ways to win these games, just not the way that most of us thought. So I'm building Texas up.
Just to tear them down.
The over-under is 48.5, by the way, on this game. It is the primetime game on ABC, by the way. But I think Georgia's also getting into that second half of the season, November prime form where they are playing their best football. I just don't see a way Texas pulls this one off. And even if this game was in Austin, Grant, I don't think Texas would win this game.
No.
I just think it's interesting to look at this Texas team with the amount of close calls that they've had, to still see only 2 losses in the loss column and number 10 in the college football playoff rankings. Maybe some of that is brand bias
This is what's so crazy to me. So they beat Vanderbilt by 3, and they were taking Vanderbilt behind the woodshed in this game.
Yeah, and then Vanderbilt
comes back, and Texas just sort of sleepwalks through. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that's not a quality win. It's getting treated. I mean, they move up. Well, it's AP. Were they 20th in CFP or AP? They were 20th. We'll just go and say either way. Moving up 10 spots or beating a Vandy team that, in my opinion, had no business being a top 10 team to begin with is ridiculous.
They had to hold on.
They get by Mississippi State in overtime.
Yep.
They barely beat Kentucky in overtime.
Yep.
And they lost to Florida. I mean, like, the month of October was not a good time. Can you point to a single win that Texas has that's impressive right now and tells you that's a college football playoff worthy or playoff team?
Their best win is Oklahoma.
The only reason they're top 10 this week is so that you can get a top 10 matchup on
it could be.
TV.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And look, the committee, I mean, it's necessarily not poor rankings. I mean, committee's doing its job. Mm-hmm. If Texas wins, then they're certainly, I think, a college football playoff worthy team. If they go beat Georgia on the road, and I'll be the first to admit that because that's a clearly obvious, huge win for that program. This is not going to happen, though.
Yeah,
so I'm on Georgia to win this one. We'll say Georgia wins at home by, I'm going to go at least 10 points. So we'll say Georgia wins 34-21.
Yeah, I'm pretty close in that area. I'm going to say 31-20 in favor of the Bulldogs in this one. And I will say this for this matchup, too, when we start looking at the end of the year accolades, Gunnar Stockton has put together also. I know you mentioned Simpson early on.
And you talk
Stockton
about guys,
has been fantastic.
You talk about guys who generally have been clutch in big moments. I mean, he's there.
Oh, yeah. And his, touchdown to interception ratio, I know that's usually a first number I like to go to, but he's not turning the ball over. But he's also being a factor offensively. We've seen Georgia quarterbacks in the past when they've had elite level teams where the quarterback has been kind of like the old Alabama model, like the A.J. McCarron, where you just need to be the game manager.
Not a factor.
Just work within the system. But, Stockton I think he's made himself more of a game
playmaker.
Manager. Yes, he is. Other game, and we're going to the Big Ten again, and it involves Iowa again, another top 25 matchup.
This time on the road, though.
This time, yes. Iowa goes on the road. They take on USC. You've got Iowa only falling back 1 spot after their loss to Oregon, which it is. And it was a great game. It was a close game.
It was a fun game.
It was a fun game.
If you like, well, never mind.
Yeah, they're number 21 right now in the college football rankings, where USC is 17th in the rankings right now. It's also a 6.5-point home team spread for USC playing out there in SoCal. This, I think, is going to be interesting because we saw, and I agree with Jay, and I think a lot of Nebraska fans would have loved to see the way that Nebraska ends that game against USC if Dylan was healthy, especially the way that Dylan was finding a little bit of room to throw the football, some lanes to throw the football and whatnot. I don't know. It was a loss, regardless of what you think. Now you've got this USC team that probably feels like that was one of their biggest wins because they went on the road. They finally got that feather in their cap of a road victory, did so against a Nebraska team that was at least trending in the right direction.
Right.
So now what does this USC team look like against what is going to be one of the most stingy defenses that they've played, but also an Iowa offense that I still think, even though there were a couple of busted plays by Oregon's defense in the passing game, that Iowa's going to try to run first at you. And if you can shut that down, you're going to be in good shape. This game is interesting from the standpoint of the strength of one team versus the other, the USC offense versus the Iowa defense.
Right. Can Malachi Lemon get loose? USC also has not quite a mini bye, but you played on Friday night against Northwestern. You get an extra day to get ready, to get yourself healthy after a short week the week before. I like USC at home here, and I look for Iowa to have a bit of a letdown in this game. You're going on the road after a tough home loss. You get a really great opportunity in front of you here. But I think ultimately USC is too much for Iowa to handle. I don't necessarily know why you didn't pull the punter trick against Iowa or any of the other people that you'll play later on this year, especially if you make it to the college football playoff. I don't know why you wasted it against Northwestern, but that's neither here nor there.
Jade Maeva also in this game. What Nebraska did against Maeva was, I think, impressive, of making him very one-dimensional, but he showed that he could still hurt you with his legs there down the stretch. And I think what they've still been able to find in their running back room that's been beaten up, that there is a little 1-2 punch there in the backfield that you have to worry about USC, but it's also tough to slow down that passing attack. And I think also at home, Maeva might have that opportunity to torch Iowa a little bit there in the secondary. I respect so much of the Iowa defense. I respect the Phil Parker defense because they're very, very good, but I think USC just might have that night, might get them. I shouldn't say night, afternoon game. But I'm going to take USC to win this one by a score of 27-13. I think offense is going to be tough.
I don't know if I gave a score. I don't think it'll be that spread. I think it'll be a little bit closer to that, not that much closer. We'll say 24-17 USC.
I want to bring this up real quickly about Iowa. So we mentioned the college football playoff rankings. Iowa is one of two teams in the college football playoff rankings, top 25, with 3 losses, the other one being Tennessee. I was looking at the whole breakdown of Iowa, and I'm thinking to myself, where is any quality win that they've had? Because the toughest teams on their schedule, they've lost. They lost to Iowa State, they lost to Oregon, they lost to Indiana. I think, Grant, this team, this Iowa team, it hasn't been about the lack of quality wins. It's been their losses and how close they've been. Other than Penn State this last weekend, nobody has been close with Indiana.
The very, very rare instance of a Big Ten team getting the benefit of an SEC quality losses argument.
Yes, and so you look at that as an Iowa team at 6-3. I'm sure a lot of people are saying, who have they beaten? Look at who they lost and how they lost. To me, that is what is put them there. And you look at the Big Ten standings,
you look at what they're playing. You look who they're playing this week.
Yep.
I mean, if they can't go on the road and beat a USC team that's number 17, they'll drop the top 25.
Yep. And if
you're a Nebraska fan, you should be rooting for Iowa.
Yes.
You should be rooting for Iowa this week so that they are ranked to come.
There's another ranked opportunity. Yeah. So we shall see. Big thank you again to all of our guests on the show, including Grant getting a chance to talk with Keona Davis, also Jay Moore. When we come back, we'll be getting you ready for the Nebraska-Penn State game. We'll see the health of both teams heading into a big matchup out there in Happy Valley. We'll look forward to talking to you about that one. Don't forget to check us out every Thursday afternoon, whether you go to the Performance Podcast YouTube channel. You can check us out on Spotify, on Apple Music, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Always appreciate that. For Grant Hansen, I'm Nick Hanley. This is the Husker Huddle. Have a great one.